governor of California was one of the first authorities in the United States to issue mandatory quarantine. Since then, and throughout the pandemic, California has spent many days on lockdown. Even when it hasn't been required, many people are doing their best to stay indoors and stay healthy. Many businesses, restaurants, and social gathering spots have also been temporarily or permanently closed due to the pandemic. Further, all schooling in California and lots of jobs were converted to completely online and at-home activities. These reasons have all contributed to greatly increased hours that many individuals have begun devoting to their screens. Today, I hope to persuade you to find a non-screen related hobby that will help reduce stress in your life during the pandemic. New York Post reported a survey on September 2nd, 2020 saying the amount of time that Americans spend staring at screens has skyrocketed since the start of the pandemic. The survey shows that the average daily screen time for Americans has increased from 4 hours a day to over 6 hours a day, and half of those people that were surveyed are suffering from screen fatigue. First, we will take a look at stress and its trends since the start of the pandemic. Next, I'll talk about how these stress trends relate to screen time and quarantining. And finally, I'll tell you how important a non-screen related hobby can be for reducing stress during the pandemic. Let's start by taking a look at stress. Naturally, since the start of the pandemic, stress levels have risen. It's extremely concerning how the pandemic can affect yours and others' livelihoods. Many people are concerned about how mandatory lockdowns may affect their career or how the virus may affect their work in another way. It can also be stressful adjusting to a new at-home work or school environment. Becoming acquainted to new technology or a new schedule can be really hard. Many people are even out of work because of the virus and have had to search for new sources of income. As stressed by Health News on February 5th, 2021, adults throughout the nation are reporting their highest stress levels since the start of the health crisis last year. Other factors have also started generating more stress due to the pandemic. For example, the news has become a very stressful place to visit. Everywhere you go on the news stations usually relates back to the pandemic, and it's stressful to be constantly reminded of the worldwide health threat. Reading about how COVID is spreading or about how different states and countries are dealing or failing to deal with the virus can be very upsetting. There's a lot of stress in the news around how the virus is affecting politics as well. Just reading about how the United States' economy is being affected by the pandemic is extremely concerning if too much thought is put into it. However, stress isn't the only thing that's been affected by the lockdown. Screen time has seen similar increases since the start of quarantine. Screen time is a large contributor to stress, but when you're stuck at home all day, it seems like the best way to pass the time. Since before the start of the pandemic, screen time has been a widely debated problem. As shared by Mad in America on November 7th, 2018, many studies have linked anxiety, depression, compromises in sleep quality, compromised social skills, increased ADHD-type symptoms, and compromised self-esteem to excess screen time. And the pandemic just adds to all of these stresses that are already created by screens. Since the start of the pandemic, many activities have been moved to entirely online, such as school or work. It's hard to unwind after spending an hour stressing over a class on your computer by watching TV on your computer. Computers are also a direct window to social media and other news outlets, which are a huge cause of stress. Just scrolling through Instagram can be very stressful with all the news and politics that's created by the virus. While many people try to use screens to escape the stress of the pandemic, there are healthier alternatives that can be even more effective. A non-screen time related hobby can be extremely beneficial to anyone's life for reducing stress or boredom, especially during the pandemic. According to Develop Good Habits in their March 5th, 2021 article, while it's important to stick to a schedule, sometimes the same routine becomes dull, especially when you're spending too much time on low-value activities like watching TV, browsing social media, or engaging in bad habits that would hold back your personal success. People often look to screens for a hobby as an easy way to escape the stress in their everyday lives. However, there are many hobbies that can be fun, relaxing, distract from your stress, and get you away from your TV or computer screen. Things like reading or art and drawing and painting can be very captivating and enjoyable, and they'll quickly take your mind away from stressful subjects. Other activities too, such as exercise or music, listening to music or making music, playing an instrument, can be extremely beneficial to your mental and physical health. Hobbies in general have great health benefits aside from just being relaxing or distracting. As shown by Very Well Mind on September 14th, 2020, research found that enjoyable activities performed during leisure time were associated with lower blood pressure, total cortisol, waist circumference, body mass index, and perceptions of better physical function. Such activities were also correlated with higher levels of psychosocial states and lower levels of depression. It's not only important to look to hobbies for distraction, but for a better quality of life. There are so many upsides to getting a hobby. Of course, there are other enjoyable hobbies I didn't mention, including watching TV or playing video games, but it's important not to devote all of your time to one of those activities. Today, I've hopefully persuaded you that a hobby is an extremely effective way to reduce stress and escape screens during the lockdown. First, we looked at increases in stress that's caused by the pandemic. Then we looked at screen time as an evident cause of some of the stress. And finally, I explained how a hobby that doesn't involve screens can be a useful tool in reducing stress. Even without a quarantine or pandemic to force us inside, a hobby can still be a great way to escape the stresses of your everyday life.